It's always a lesson learned to make us what? To make us stronger, to make
Right.
us, so that's what I've always believed in. And that's what has allowed me, as my years gone on in the insurance, my agency, to develop just a stronger foundation for what we do.
What is up, friends? Rob Sevilla here, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire leadership podcast for all of you today. And I'm with my man all the way from the state of Texas, Mr. Gabriel Tovar. Gabe, will you say what's up to everyone real quickly?
Hey, how's everybody doing? I hope everyone's having a great day down here in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, well, I'm excited, Gabe, that you're on today, and I know you're going to spit some serious fire. But listen, before we dive into that, I do this every time we do an interview because I want you to know that the reason I interview leaders like Gabriel is because of this, because I believe that all of you were created on purpose for a purpose. And I believe there's a divine creator who put a leader in all of you. And I pray that something that we talk about today will not only motivate you, but deeply inspire you to become that leader. In other words, isn't it about time that you start living on purpose? And what better year to start than in 2022? So, Gabe, I'm so excited that you're with me today. I enjoyed meeting you in Springfield, Missouri a few weeks back at the main event, and just really loved your personality, your demeanor. And I wanted you to come on because as we were talking, you were telling me a little bit of your story and how long you had been in our industry, and that's the insurance industry. So would you give everyone like a 30,000 foot view, maybe some highlights of the past, some of that transition time up to where you're at today?
Okay, yeah, Rob, I really enjoyed meeting you and your wife. We had a great time in Springfield, and just looking forward to this great relationship we have. And thank you and your wife. We had a great time. A little bit about myself. I'm one of the old timers in the insurance business. So I started 24 years ago. I started here in the Austin, Texas region, specializing in life insurance. I did that for a few years. Moved down south to the Valley, West Laco area also. That's where my wife was at. We ended up spending about 16 years down there. And just recently last year, just moved back. So maybe about 15 years ago, I dove into what is the Medicare space. Mainly Medicare Advantage, and we pretty much crushed that area. Did a lot of good things in the community, and that's where my home office is at. So I'm back here in Austin. We're now building the agency, and super excited what's to come.
So let me ask you this, because 24 years, right? Like you've been doing this 24 years. In this day and time, you're lucky if anybody does anything for a year. What is it that has helped you, or can you tell us maybe a trait, whether it's a leadership trait, a habit, a principle that you've adopted and implemented in your life that's helped you sustain this for 24 years? Is there something that rises to the top that you go, this is what's allowed me to get here?
One is the mindset. Obviously, my mindset has developed as I've gone, but as a kid, we grew up with not much. I grew up here in Austin, single mom. There's something she, did her best to teach us is it didn't matter what we do, just do it right. Take some pride, learn it. So as I was starting up in the insurance industry, it was always, how can I understand my product a little bit better? How can I tweak it? How can I stand out, or how can I bring more value to my customers and to the community? And so that, and just understanding the insurance industry, how great it is. So, there was some rough time, but I wrote it out, and I just believed in what this industry is all about.
And I always preach this, Gabriel, that I believe, and this is how I believe, that God actually does his best work in us in the tough seasons. So you talked a little bit about tough seasons. Can you elaborate on some of those tough seasons? Did you just want to throw in the towel? Did you want to quit? And then what did you have to really tell yourself in order to keep pushing through those tough seasons?
Yeah, I remember we had just had our first daughter. The dream was, hey, my wife, you don't have to work. We're good. And all of a sudden 9/11 happened, which created the Patriot Act, which, when you work in the Hispanic market, it cut 50-60% of my business.
Yeah.
And we had our roughest year, new house, new kid, everything. So, I did want to throw in the towel a few times. I had some great friends in other industries, real estate, mortgage, that were like, hey, just write it out. Did everything again because I believed in the business. I was not at that level, but I understood that if I could sustain it, at some point we would get over that hump. And we did.
Yeah. And so talk about that belief, right? Because you know this, we go to conferences, I consume content. I'm a content junkie. You know, I got to fill my mind full of positive stuff because maybe you're like me, or maybe you're watching today out there and you're like me, is my realism sometimes can get in the way of my optimism, right? I'm a very optimistic person, but sometimes that realism can just get too real and drown that out. But how did you continue to feel that belief? I love what you said. You had some friends in your life that kind of spoke life into you and said, hey, don't quit. But talk about the belief factor and how important it is, and what was it grounded on?
Well, we always grounded on what the financials. We look at, okay, when I almost walked away from the business, I started looking at the options. Okay, what else can I do in the space? You know, what else can I go do? And there was nothing that compared to the income that we can do in the insurance. So understanding that, it was just that, hey, okay, I'm not producing enough sales. I'm not doing enough. And then I had to check myself and basically realize, okay, when I was at my peak, you know, I was doing, you know, I started as a captive agent. So obviously as a captive agent, you know, you're forced to do certain things. As you become independent, you lose some of those basic habits. And what I ended up having to do is just go back to basics and just go back to first grade level. And okay, what was I doing a couple of years back when I was doing so many sales? And that is what, you know, just allowed me to and challenge myself. I was a big guy. I love looking at leaderboards, and if I was number 2, 3, hey, I need to get to number 1. So I love the challenge. I'm always trying to get up there. So, you know, that's what pushed me a lot.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And listen, if you're watching this today, Gabriel's spitting some fire here early on, and it's this. A lot of you look as adversity as a disadvantage. But the reality is, and Gabe, you know this, none of us get a get out of jail free card when it comes to adversity, challenges, pain, and suffering. But instead of looking at it as a disadvantage, look at it as an advantage. And I'm going to give you one of the best ways to use adversity to your advantage. And Gabe talked about it. That is to do activity, right? Isn't it interesting, Gabe, how as soon as you just take action and you start doing more activity, that it seems like those problems dissipate a little bit or kind of go away. And it's not to discount people if you're going through some serious problems today. It's simply to say that when you just start doing something, an activity, income producing activity is what we're talking about here in this session. It's interesting how it seems like your problems get smaller. Is that kind of what you're saying to us today?
Yeah. And that's exactly like you're saying. Either you can look at it as, okay, this is, you can go all negative and just ride that. But when you understand things in life, you know, sometimes when things beat us up or they're not great, it's what's the lesson? What did I learn? How did I adjust to this? And, you know, and I think that's always the difference, because the mindset, it's easy to focus on how bad everything is or the negative versus how do I get out of this? You know, what can I do? And I've always seen that, you know, when times get a little hard, and even in our personal, not just financials, you know, it's always a lesson learned to make us what? To make us stronger, to make us, you know, so that's what I've always believed in. And that's what has allowed me, as my years gone on in the insurance, my agency, to develop, you know, just a stronger foundation for what we do.
Yeah. And so talk about it, like all this adversity that you went through from your beginnings. You have 2 agencies today, right? 2 offices, I should say. How many agents or people are involved in your particular 2 offices?
So we have a total of about 8 staff, mainly 6 on down south, 2 here in Austin. And since February to here, we've been able to recruit about over 55 agents. So for a long time, I rode just by myself. For over 20 years, I was the one guy with 6, 7 assistants. And I was a big producer where, you know, maybe about 2 years ago, we put on about 4 or 5. And then just this February, just actually December, just the mindset was like, okay, I'm going to do this different. You know, again, surrounding myself by different people that saw something in me and sort of encouraged me, like, hey, you can do this. So as of February to now, we picked up about 55 agents.
Wow. That is crazy. And listen, I just want to stop and look in the camera real quickly. Is this, your dream is worth it not just for you and your family, because you never know how many other people you will impact by chasing that dream and outlasting the temporary, right? And so I love what you're saying, that because you were willing to go through all that, you were willing to outlast the temporary. Now you're affecting all of these people. And now you're a catalyst, Gabe, to help them chase their dreams, right? And so that's really awesome. It's interesting because you've been doing this for 24 years. I mean, you could be the kind of guy that says, I've been doing this for 20 years. I know what I'm doing. I don't need to be taught or to be coached. But it sounds like you have a coachable and teachable mindset, that no matter, you've been doing this a long time, that you go, you know what, I still want to learn. I still want to grow. I still want to get better. Talk about that just for a second.
I would say this last year, as I grew up, just so everybody knows, some people will have mentors and some won't. I grew up with no mentor, no systems, nobody really guiding me. So I was always pretty much down south. One of the top producers, I was known for, hey, what are you doing different? I use sheets. I was very, I'm very organized. But in the last year, I've sort of been introduced to everybody in this industry that does it at a higher level or more efficient using systems. And I'm so impressed. And I was telling my wife the other day, I would say that last year is probably the year that I worked the hardest because I'm more excited. I love it. I love just looking at all these ideas, and if I were to tweak my agency somewhat, I'm like, wow, the potential we have. And I think one of the strongest things that has helped me, like you say, I love learning, but I love learning from people that really know how to bring it and have value. They've done the walk. They know what they're saying. You can see who they are. And that's probably the key. Sometimes in this industry, we fall victims to follow someone that just isn't transparent, and doesn't bring the value. So I've associated myself in the last year with some people that have proven to me that are sincere, that they just really want to get us to another level. And, even though I'm 24 years into this, I feel like I'm brand new. I'm excited, just to learn all these different systems and just these ideas. And I transfer to my team, my agents, my staff, and we see the effect. It's just great.
Yeah, and you know this, and you've seen this, and I'm not throwing shade or trying to hate on anybody, but a lot of times people just get crusty, man. They just kind of get set in their ways. That's my terminology, right? Getting crusty. Don't be crusty, by the way. Maybe that's the message for this video. But don't get stale. Be coachable. Be teachable, as Gabe is saying. I mean, 24 years in the business. It's like, what do you teach a guy? But what he just said is he's taking his business to the next level. Now he's got 55 agents going on, and maybe that's the word that some of you need to hear today, that maybe you're not coachable. Maybe you're not teachable. Maybe you've been in an industry a long time and you go, oh, there's nothing new that I can learn. But I love what you said. You got to run a community. You got to run a tribe. Is that the biggest breakthrough that you've seen in your life? Was systems? Was it transparency? Well, give us a moment that you go, I got around these group of people, these sincere, transparent, honest group of people. Give us a moment or maybe an idea or a defining situation that you said, you know what, this is a breakthrough for me.
Well, throughout my year, it's been so many breakthroughs. I think I joined Medicare and I became a captive agent with Humana Market Point, and that just opened up my eyes. The training that they do was just by far, the way we were trained and molded in the Medicare space is just different. And, after I came out, I ended up joining a group for the first time, and that took me to another level. So with this one group, yeah, it was great, but I felt like I got stuck at some point. So I'm always looking to, okay, how do I get it? But sometimes we jump around from marketing groups because we put our trust in them, and it works for a while. But sometimes it's a business belief. But what I've come to find, and we talk about it, right? We talk a lot. The three areas that we look at first is always my spiritual life, our relationship we have with our God, and then second, family, and third, business. And sadly, sometimes some industries put business first, second, third, and then your family, and then your spiritual. And it doesn't work that way. And for us, to be around people that believe in the same system, it's great. and it just feels different versus just, hey, this is business, keep it personal. No, I think being around the like-minded people, and you can sense it, you can feel it, it's sincere. That's what I love about it. Even though, yes, in our journey, we have to learn the hard way. Sometimes things work for a while, and sometimes we just have to adjust. And I think that's the key. So there's been some great moments. But since July, I will say, in July, I went to 8% with Cody. It just opened up so many things, meeting so many industry leaders, not just Cody, but just so many guys out there. And since then to now, it's just associating with so many people at that high level.
And it's interesting because we hear it all the time, but I think a lot of people don't truly believe in the power of events and the power of associations. Listen, if you're watching today, the breakthrough for many of you is to change your circle, right? Is to help you dream bigger, is to help you think bigger. But here's the other thing, what Gabe is talking about today is that the people that you're hanging with maybe are not in alignment with your God-given assignment, right? And that's what I love where I'm in the season I'm in, Gabe, is now I feel like there's some congruency there. Now I feel like I'm in alignment. Now I feel like the people that are leading me are in alignment with what I believe God has put me on this earth for, right? And so it makes all the difference in the world, and one of the terminologies I use is it puts fresh wind in my sails. It makes me feel alive. It makes me know that lets me know that there's someone there, my leadership, that really truly cares for me and wants to see me win, not just them win, but all of us win together. And it makes you feel like you can just conquer the world, so to speak.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because, 24 years, the book of business I have, we have a monster Medicare book, ACA, I've been doing it for about 10 years. It's another monster book we have. It's easy for me to say, what, let me just take it easy. I can retire or just start going down. But when you have people that are showing that they believe in you, and the alignment is correct. I've been interviewing a lot of agency owners lately, and their upline is more in a comfort zone, or they're just, they're great, but they forget everybody that's trying to build their team and trying to grow. So if you're not aligned with someone that wants to grow or someone that believes in you, then it's going to be very difficult to grow either production or grow your agency.
Yeah. Now that right there is worth the price of admission, ladies and gentlemen. That nugget right there. Maybe you're aligned with someone you don't need to be aligned with anymore. And it doesn't make them bad and you better. It just means that the season that you're in to go to the next level. I love what you said, Gabe, that you got to get with next level people, next level thinking, next level systems, next level relationships, right? I like to say it this way. A lot of times we give people VIP access that need to be in the nosebleeds. Right? It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means where you're going, where I'm going, I want to be aligned with the Gabriels of today, right? I want to, like 24 years in the business, I go, man, that motivates me to make sure that I'm cultivating the right things in my life to have that sustainability and longevity. Let me ask you this, and I'm going to go back to the captive agent real quickly, because I've been a captive agent. It seems like this is a really reoccurring theme in a lot of leaders that I interview, especially in our industry. Is what is a big lesson? What's one of the biggest lessons that you learned when you were a captive agent?
I would say accountability. I mean, there's no, whether you like it, dislike it, it's mandatory. They're giving you a paycheck for them to basically tell you what to do. They give you the structure. I love the structure that's set out, because at least they're giving you a foundation of this is what you're supposed to do. Okay. This is what you're supposed to do in the field. This is what's expected by Friday. And, even though it wasn't as organized or as neat as nowadays, very flashy, it was extremely old school. I remember, our manager would ask us, hey, we had a book. We had to turn in a book every Friday. And every day we're supposed to get 5 new prospects. So by the end of the week, you have 25 prospects. You got 25 prospects. How many sales did you have? Okay, you were short next week. What are you doing to bring that up? So I think accountability and just that work ethic that, you learn how to go hunt it, you learn how to go get it. And I think nowadays everything's sort of based around leads, which are important, but I learned how to go find my business versus just relying 100% on leads.
Yeah. What is one lesson that you learn not to do? Like, as when you became on your own, what is one takeaway that you go, you know what, I learned this, but I also learned I don't want to do this one day when I lead people and I have my own agency?
Sometimes it's the micromanaging. Sometimes, when you tend to have a manager that's just constantly on you, instead of encouraging you, and I think it's just so old school. When I was around, my manager was older, so he was even old school, his style.
Sure.
And he didn't realize, but even though instead of him encouraging me, a lot of times it was discouraging me. I was a top producer. I was doing great. My book, everything was aligned better than most agents. I think I was number 3 in the country one year in sales.
Wow.
But even at that, he was always like I'm like, okay, you're not helping me. And when I went in the field, I realized, okay, at some point, now that I have more agents, it's, always maintaining that positive, making sure that, we're giving counsel or we're helping, but it's always positive versus negative.
Sure. Yeah, my personality does not thrive in a micromanaged environment. I do understand that some people need that, but I think this and other top producers and leaders, that when you give them autonomy, when you give them the freedom, it really thrives, right? Freedom with accountability. So I love that. And maybe you're watching today, and this is a word that you need to hear from Gabriel, that maybe you're micromanaging your people to death. Maybe your agency is not thriving, or your business, whatever business arena you're in, is because you're just got your thumb on everybody. And a lot of times, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gabriel, this is when my experience in leading people in the ministry as well in business, but a lot of times it's just, we have trust issues sometimes, right? And we got to be able to, one of the biggest breakthrough moments I had, Gabriel, was when I went to a church planting conference, and the guy got up there and he said, some of your churches aren't growing because you're not trusting people enough and empowering them enough to do what they need to do, even though you call them to do it. And you have to understand that they're never going to do it as good as you, probably. And that's okay. Have you seen that in your business as well?
Yeah. It took a while. And another game changer for me was maybe about 12 years ago when I got my first assistant. I was used to doing everything, but I got to where I had like 100 ideas coming out of my head every single day.
Sure.
And as I developed the office staff, it was extremely hard because there is that trust thing. And I was saying, well, if I did it, I can do it this way.
Sure.
But understanding the business side, which is what I started learning, you have to trust, you have to delegate it. And, I'm very thankful we have some of my staff members have been with us 6-7 years. So it's just,
wow.
It's just great. And so I think we learned to, it's that it is hard, to let go. But I had the same trust issues. I think most agency owners start, as you're growing, you start running into, what is that little burden where, how much do I let go? What do I do?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a trust thing. But once you get over that, it's great.
Yeah, we hold on to it like this, right? And listen, some of that is understandable, but as you're figuring out, and as I figured out as well, and I'm still figuring out, learning, is that the more I delegate, the faster I can grow. So I met some of your people when we were in Springfield, and you guys were having a good time, laughing. Talk about culture for a minute, because I believe culture is a kind of a sexy word that a lot of people kind of throw out there, but there's very few people that learn how to cultivate a healthy and thriving culture. Can you talk about maybe some tips or some strategies that you do to cultivate a healthy culture where people really want to be there, and really want to come to work and produce at a high level?
Well, I think it all starts with the individual person that you are. I think in your community, with the people that you do business with, you start developing a reputation. And as I hired my first assistant, it was someone we knew, our second one, our third one. There were people I knew versus just a resume, because I needed to know they were, good people, they were integrity.
Sure.
We hold our morals and our standards a little high, where most companies will be like, hey, we'll hire you. I think you have potential. Potential's there, but if someone just brings a bad spirit or a bad vibe, it's just not good for the office, not good for anything. So for years, in my office, we maintained a good culture. I treat my employees almost like daughters, and it's a family thing. And so as we've grown, that's what we introduce. we have a culture here that's not going to be broken. This is how we believe. This is our standard. And, I've had people that I've had to say, hey, you don't align with me.
Sure.
Sadly, sometimes I will check social media. They're like, hey, that has nothing to do with this. I said, it has everything to do with it. The person you are will transfer to the business side as well, whether you believe it. And some people feel like, well, that's separate. Well, for me, you're still the same person. So we do so much. We obviously we have a rule. There's zero negativity in the office. We all help each other, and it's never about, well, how much is in it for me? What can we do? Because, and in my area, I guess in a lot of areas, but sadly in our industry, even my mom would ask me, like, you moved down and you just blew up versus you were in Austin. And I did okay in Austin, but in the Valley, I blew up. And it was one key thing. I was surrounded by unethical agents. So many unethical agents surrounded me, whether it was life insurance, Medicare, that I became the guy that doctors and everybody knew, pharmacists, like, hey, go talk to him about it. Like, he can fix it. And there were just mistakes that were done intentionally, misleading. And so I built a reputation that in our community, we were the ones that did things right. We were the ones that you can trust. And then we had an office that everybody can come in, they get to know our girls. So that culture has been going on for years where, it's been maybe 7 years that I didn't run out and do a Medicare appointment or any appointments. Everybody comes to my office and I tell them for one reason, not that I don't want to go out. It's just, I want you to come and see where I work, where my staff is, what we can do for you. And that we're here 100%. So the culture, as we're growing, even just recently, I believe we not let go, but we had an opportunity picking up about 30 agents. It's just talking to the owner, his mindset, his way of thinking, is just did not align with how we think. And we just said, hey, we're just not a right fit for each other. So it's tough as we grow, but definitely the culture is the most important thing. We teach everybody, it doesn't matter what position everybody holds in our staff. It's always about respecting each other.
Yeah. And I love that you started with you, because in the church space, which, I was in ministry for a long time, lead pastor, church planner. We've learned this, that the church takes on the identity of its pastor. It's the same thing in business, right? The company takes on the identity of its leadership. So it is important. And the soil of our hearts is going to translate over into our business. So I love what you're saying there. And at the end, I love what you were saying too, because a lot of people would just go after the money and sacrifice the culture. But you're saying, no. I've actually done way better by making sure that alignment and that congruency was there. Correct?
Yeah, correct. I mean, and that's the goal. Never hurt the culture as we grow. And of course, we always have to monitor it. But I think up front, what I'm doing when I interview these agencies is I'm taking a deep dive, and I think sometimes they're surprised of the questions I ask, because they're not used to that. They're not used to somebody focusing on the culture, the ethics. Without the ethics, I'd be just another average agent. But I think in our community, we have developed a reputation that just helps us keep growing at a fast rate.
No, that's great. I want to go back to something in the very beginning that you said about standing out, right? What are some ways that you have implemented or that you put in place to help your business stand out? Because you were talking about bringing value and standing out. And before you answer that, where I live, the train goes through the middle of our town about 50 times a day. So you may hear the train go through there. If you ever get to visit Tupelo, you'll get the awesome pleasure of hearing the train 30 times, a day, it seems like. But so answer that for me about the value, the standing out. You were talking about that in the very beginning. How have you made yourself and your agents and your agency, your company stand out?
Well, at an early time in my career, I realized, when I was a career agent, we all represent the same company, same products. How do I tweak a product, or how do I present it different? Everybody has the same contracts. How do I market myself or my agency different? And
right.
I think early when I moved down, really when we blew up was probably about 12, 13 years ago, where I realized we were in a very small town. And I almost put an office in a big city.
Right.
Let me stick to a small town, which was gold. because I decided, okay, I'm going to take over. I started marketing, but a lot of the networking, I started getting extremely involved in the community, high schools, whatever they did, food banks. I did a lot of networking with pharmacies, doctors, clinics, and just got my name out, but always showing them the value that we brought them, how we can help them. If there was a new doctor in town, hey, I can help you build your panel. Let me interview. Let me see what I can do for you.
Sure.
Dentist, hey, let me see what I can do for you. And it's always that we give to the community, we give to people in our business relationships. They're going to give back at some point. And so for the longest time, that's what I did. I strengthened who we were in the community. And that was my grassroots just from there on.
Yeah. And so you just sowed a lot of those seeds, and it seems like now it's kind of come as a big harvest, if you will, right? Like you've seen that now come to fruition, and those seeds that you planted for years and are continuing to plant are continuing to grow, right? And bring you plenty of business. I think a lot of people, no matter what industry you're in, I think a lot of times we discount the grassroots marketing, right? We don't want to, we get so hooked on these fancy systems. And once again, there's nothing wrong with that. We utilize them too. But a lot of times it's just doing that simple, making an impact, being generous, getting out there, talking with people. You'll be surprised how big of an effect it has on your business. And it sounds like you've seen that in yours.
And what's happened, for example, let's say you're trying to work within a community. Let's say the Walmart, you're dealing with the pharmacist or a doctor. Once they branch out to the bigger cities or they start moving around, they start telling the people, hey, I deal with a lot over here. And all of a sudden we have a connection, 20 miles away, 30 miles away. So what you're doing within your community will eventually start branching out as everybody grows out. Doctors, nurse practitioners all of a sudden are, somewhere else. And they're like, hey, so it brings value within time where it's just branching out. It's a domino effect.
Yeah. I love that ripple effect that you guys are creating. And if you're watching today, maybe that you're not creating that ripple effect. You're not willing to do whatever it takes to get out there in your community and make a difference. And you'll be surprised how big of a ripple effect that it can cause. As we get ready to wrap up today, just a couple of more questions here. I ask this pretty much everybody that comes on the podcast about leadership, because obviously this is a leadership podcast. You've cultivated some leadership habits, principles in your life. Is there one that rises to the top that you go, this is a leadership principle or habit that I have implemented in my life, and that this is how I live my life, but I also lead from? Is there one that rises to the top that you can think about?
I would say never ask someone to do something that you've never done. So what's made me strong, again, there's people that would rather just purchase leads and do certain things. And we say that's just a different alignment. Grassroots is a different alignment. I'm not going to try to teach somebody something that I've never done. I'm going to do what like they say, lead by example.
Sure.
And for me, the way I marketed, the way I did everything, my systems and things, that's what got me to my level. So that's what I'm trying to teach my agents. This is what worked for me, and this is how I'm going to teach you. I'm not going to teach unless I start doing it. So when I'm telling my agents, hey, read some positive things, be coachable. Okay, am I coachable? Am I going to these events? When I'm trying to promote, hey, you need to go to these events. Okay, am I going? Am I bringing value? Am I, just so I think we lead by example. Like you say, when we're the leaders, they're watching us and they expect us to lead by example.
Sure.
So that's probably my biggest takeaway, that I continue to have to remind myself. Like sometimes I have these ideas, I'm like, okay, wait, I've never done that. So why would I teach that?
Sure.
And I'm going to teach you what I know worked for me and that I mastered. I'm not going to teach you something that I'm new at. Of course, I do tell them we're going to bring some new systems. We're going to do certain things, but I'm going and I'm learning it. I'm going to bring it. And then
I know. I think that's a great one, leading by example and teaching things that and right, because we live in a culture where everybody wants to be a celebrity and they don't really know how to, how to be successful. right? It's a totally different world from the online social media to the real life. So no, I love that. I ask everybody that comes on the podcast this: if there was one word that you would use to describe yourself, what would that one word be?
Wow, it's good. I would say caring. Caring.
Caring.
Yeah. So until the people that surround me are like, my goodness, like you show some, like, I never realized it, but even the way I treat my staff, even the way I treat my agents, that's my next goal. How do I get agents to get to that level where it makes a difference in their lives? I know this industry has been a game changer for me and my family, and to see other families, start getting to that next level. That's what I love. So I don't show it much, but the people around me say, "Man, you're always, sincere in what I'm trying to teach them." But it's just that care. I treat them as my friends. If I'm going to recruit somebody, you're going to be with me. We're going to spend time together.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you my all. And that's it.
No, I love that, because a lot of times, and this, we see people put out there, I've recruited 1,000 agents, I recruited 50 agents or 100 agents in one day. But a lot of times that caring isn't there, right? They're just a recruit.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. John Maxwell, I don't know if he's the one that originated this quote or if he just kind of restated it, but he said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that that's quoted all the time, but not practiced, right? And these are people that we're recruiting. These are people that we're pouring into. These are people with real life situations. And I have found as a leader that when I truly care, with accountability, of course, but when I truly care, that they go, wow, I've never had anybody believe in me that way. And I think you've seen that in your journey as well.
Oh, yeah. And lately we're taking some deep dives. I do one-on-ones. Everybody's always about what's the goal, what's the numbers. But for me, it's like, okay, tell me about your kids. Tell me about your wife. Tell me about this. I want to know the person, because that's what moves people. Money doesn't move everybody. Your dreams, what you're trying to do for your wife, your kids, your parents, your friends, or your community. That's what's going to drive you. So, we try to find that out. We try to, again, treat our agents the way we treat our staff. And, like going back to the culture. And you don't do that in a group setting. You do it on one-on-ones. You start getting to know everybody.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap up today, and man, you have brought some fire today, my friend. And, I was excited about getting you on the podcast, and some advice, because I interview people in different spaces. I know we talked a little bit more insurance needs, as I like to call it today, and we talked a little bit more about our space, but just an entrepreneur out there, right? Maybe speak to them today. What's some advice that you'd give them to maybe get started, right? Maybe they're wanting to make that first move towards that journey, right? Betting on themselves. But is there some advice that you would give you 20 something years ago? I know you were in the insurance space, but just in general, some advice that you would go back in time and give that 20 something year back Gabriel version there. And maybe that would speak to somebody today. What is some advice for some entrepreneurs out there?
Well, I would say in general, which I did not have, I fell into the insurance space like a lot of us, we ended up going captive. I never had a mentor. So nowadays it's just so easy to whatever you do, whether it's real estate, whether it's loans, whatever you're diving into as an entrepreneur, follow people in the industry that have opened up the ways for us. I think as Tony Robbins said once, why spend years trying to learn something? Find out who's at the top and then just study them. Yeah. And that's the same in any business we can do. Have a mentor, have a positive attitude, and, be realistic, because you're going to hit some dips. And I think people give up too early on their dream versus writing it out. And, but more importantly, find a mentor, a group of people, surround yourself with positive minded people. And, early on, it's just about work, or this is what I have to do. But if you set that early in your career, it'll just accelerate you so much faster. And not just that, but this is what I tell my agents. if you're not having fun doing this, if you don't enjoy this, then, you got to check yourself, because this is a great industry, or just what we're able to do, or even an entrepreneur. So I'm surrounded by my buddies that one does real estate, another one does loans, and I do insurance. But I can tell we enjoy it. We have fun. We love it.
Yeah.
In our own space, but it's just entrepreneurship is where it's at.
So in mentor, this just came to me as you were talking real quickly, kind of part B. Give us one trait that you would look for in a mentor. Like if you were to go back in time, back to the future, right? I mean, so to speak, come back. What knowing what you know now, what is a trait that you would look for in a mentor, that you would go, this is what I must have in a mentor?
Transparency. I think there's a lot of leaders out there. There's a lot of successful people out there, but they're not always transparent.
Right.
I think if you get that transparent, if someone is transparent with you, they're being honest. They're looking out for your best interest, and they're sincere and great people.
Yeah.
In this industry, sometimes we're kept in the shade, where there's no transparency, and when you see it, it's just an eye opener. So I think, in this industry, we have to be more transparent. We have to be more honest with our agents, and we just, even if we don't know what we're doing, sometimes it's like, hey, I don't know, but I'm going to find out, or let me get back to you. And I think early on, if I had transparency, and that one person, because obviously if someone's transparent, they're really looking out for your best interests. They're doing everything they got.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree. And I can't think of a better way to end this today. And I've been on both sides of that, where there was things hidden, weren't fully transparent. And I'm glad God brought me to someone who was willing to pull back the curtain and go, here's everything, have nothing to hide. And it's allowed me and my wife to thrive. Right. And not hating on anybody from the past. I don't believe in that. I learned lessons in every part of my journey, but I learned the lesson of, I want to be fully transparent and an open book. Right. Because it makes all the difference in the world. So Gabriel, thank you today for coming on and sharing a few minutes with us, and so excited about this dropping in a few weeks. I know it's going to inspire and encourage people. And listen, as we wrap up today, I pray that this has put fresh wind in your sails. Maybe you're watching this today and you're about to quit. You're about to give up on your dream. And I promise you, chasing what I call your God-sized dream is worth it. Okay. And it's not just to benefit you, but you were created and put here on this planet to make a massive difference in the lives of people. You may not be on a stage, but just the people in your community, in your circle. You never know that going after your dream could be a catalyst for others to go after their dreams. So I want to encourage you to please like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notifications. That way you're notified every time we drop fresh content like this. And I'll just end by saying this. I want to say, God bless you guys. Make it an awesome day. Gabe, thanks once again for being here. And we'll talk to all of you guys soon.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it.